It's time now to take a look at the stories making headlines in Nigerian newspapers. And I have joining me in the studio is a chartered accountant, public affairs analyst, Sheson Okwade. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, and thank God it's Friday.
Thank God it's Friday. And chartered mediator, conciliator, Chris Kende Wando. Thank you so much for being here.
It's nice to be here. Good morning, my brother.
Good to see you again. All right, so let's see what the newspapers are reporting this morning. Daily Trust, Russia-Ukraine war, operational HAs delay evacuation of stranded Nigerians. Operational HAs delay evacuation of stranded Nigerians. Anxiety heightens among parents. Citizens' refusal to return responsible. That's according to the government official. Wanted in United States, this Nigeria is next. Wanted in United States, dragged to court in Nigeria. Kyari entangled amid NDLEA's 8-count criminal charge for drug deal. Federal government concludes extradition to the U.S. over Hushpuppy money laundering. First news, Hushpuppy. Finally, federal government approves Kyari's extradition to the U.S. Malami, he should go and face justice. Alleged drug peddling, court refuses ex-Super Cubs bail application. Next is the Nigerian Tribune. As federal government approves its extradition process, NDLEA structures Kyari's drug case to face 8-count charge with 6 others. You see that on page 2 of the Nigeria Tribune. Daily Sun is next. Federal government moves to hand Kyari over to the U.S., begins extradition process as NDLEA slams embattled suspended cop, 6 others with 8 counts charge. Vanguard newspaper has its own screaming headline as Abba Kyari faces dismissal by police, trial by the NDLEA. Police moved to dismiss Abba Kyari before extradition. Extradition to provide him opportunity to claim himself. That's according to a source. And NDLEA files 8-count charge against him, 6 others. The Nation newspaper is next. Concerns about 2023 general election by INEC. There is security threat, says PDP. Political spending pushes up demand for dollar. Next is the Punch newspaper. Governors fume over falling FAAC funds, carpets NNPC. NNPC not meeting FAAC obligation but declaring profit, oil sector opaque. That's according to Governor Fayemi. And firms zero remittance shows Nigeria's bankruptcy. That's according to Governor Akeredolu. Fuel scarcity is not abating. The next is the national economy. No respite as logistics challenges insecurity, prolong fuel scarcity. And Daily Times, ASUU kicks as federal government reconstitutes team to renegotiate 2009 agreement. Says we won't participate in any renegotiation with the federal government. And CNG calls for mass action, country shut down over ASUU strike. We'll also look at that in the course of our analysis. Leadership newspaper is next. Growing insecurity threatening 2023 general election. That's according to INEC. All eyes are on Nigeria for credible polls. US. Free critical press essential for consolidation of democracy. NGE. And INEC must be shielded from political interference. That's according to the CSOs. Business Day is next. Amid poor power supply, federal government vows to sanction discos. We'll always continue to talk about power supply in this country until the needful is done. Blueprint has the headline as investigation. That's the key count. The headline reads, Nigeria to pay off $3.5 billion debts to China 2047. Wow. $1.5 billion paid loans to outlive 6 administrations. Finance Minister Lawan justified federal government's decision and funds invested on 17 capital projects. And then we'll also have News Direct, which is last but not the least. $111 oil price. Governors seek NLNG's model for NNPC dividend payment. Lament NNPC's zero contribution into federal government's account. and commend Seplat's acquisition of ExxonMobil. So let's delve into the analysis of this newspaper. Chris Kende Wandra, I'll be starting with you first. Finally, federal government has approved that Abba Kyari should be extradited to the United States, and AGF Abubakar Malami is saying that he should go and face justice. That's it?
That's it. But we still have some challenges and some hurdles to overcome before that will come to place. First and foremost, the AGF have gone to court to get that normalized so that he can be given the opportunity to go and defend himself. But just as the AGF was doing that yesterday, the NDLA also came out with another 8 count charges against Abba Kyari and 6 others. And I think this is going to court on Monday. And the issue everybody has been asking, just like your former guest rightly mentioned, is that which comes first? Is it that of NDLA or that of the United States? I think what we need to do now is to be able to get the office of the AGF to be able to sit down with the NDLA and then let them be able to touch on, because there have been precedents where the court itself can stop his extradition. Don't forget that late Kashamu had serious drug issues, and the United States also made an entry for him to be extradited. But on a daily basis, we are seeing the courts stopping him from going until his death. So he was not. So that we don't find ourselves in a situation where we'll be shooting ourselves in the feet or on the foot. The office of the AGF and also the Ministry of Justice should be able to put their hands together and now decide which comes first. Is he going answer for his question? Some people have said the one that comes first should be, but we have this law of Nigeria. So if the law on extradition, as I've heard, has it that if somebody has another case within the country where you're coming from, then definitely that has to be disposed of. And so, but the fact is that the AGF is acting to his billing by making sure that that agreement, which you signed with the United States and some other countries, being fulfilled. If you have an extradition treaty with any country, it's obliged on you. And don't also forget that there have instances we also have other extradition treaties, like some countries across the globe. If a Nigerian is even sentenced in another country, I think in UAE and UK and the rest of them, the person can be repatriated back to Nigeria to continue his prison terms. But let's wait and see how this pans out as the weeks run up to this.
Right, Sheson. Well, Abba Kyari faces dismissal by police, trial by the NDLA. You know, people have been saying that it's not possible. It might not be possible that Abba Kyari will be dealt with, will face justice at the end of the day. But it now looks like the police is trying to sanitize itself. Is that the way you see it?
The issue of dismissing him ahead of time, I think is really not what I would see. Let's hear what the court states about some of this allegation. I have my lawyer friend here. Every issue that we're still dragging as we speak is still an allegation until the courts are proven that some of these cases are actually real. Because if we preempt it by dismissing him and the court come out to say some of these cases that or allegation against him are actually wrong, how do we manage that? So I don't want a situation where the police force, we kind of overreact or over preempt the judgment of the court. And with what has happened, you and I understand that this was a man that was highly celebrated, and if some of these issues are being treated as we are having it now, it will pass message to so many other people in the police force who are not doing what they are supposed to do. But at least for the first time, like CKN said, let's be seen to be acting in accordance to what we have actually promised the citizen. If we do not adhere with the principle of the law to deal decisively with anyone that has actually violated it, then there is nothing that you are using to serve as deterrent to other. You and I understand how insecurity started in this country. It's because we didn't nip it on the bud. My issue has always been, there are several people who may be committing some of these offenses, but by the time you're able to use one or two, you know, it will serve as deterrent to others, and they will know if this can be done. Same we can apply to corruption cases. Same we can adopt in other areas to make sure that anyone who has the interest of doing such thing, we know that there is a Waterloo ahead of him, and if he's caught, he will be dealt with.
Sikian, let's look at the person of Abba Kyari, and some of the things that he has actually achieved. Among other recognitions and awards, the Maiduguri-born officer was in June given standing ovation at a session of the House of Representatives for his exceptional work and the fight against criminality in Nigeria. He had earlier also bagged the Presidential Medal for Courage in April 2016 and was declared 2018 Africa's best detective. Even a street in its hometown was also named after him, in his honor. So in spite of this, some have called on the National Assembly, men, you need to withdraw this standing ovation, this national honor you conferred on him.
Abba Kyari, as it stands today, is still...
okay, Sikian, okay. You hold your thoughts. We'll have to take a break now. When we come back, you pick it up from there.
Okay.
Stay with us on TVC Breakfast. We'll be back in a moment.
Everything in life has a recipe.
Really?
Yes, dear. Like the recipe to rule a great empire. The recipe to be the best of the best.
You've got the recipe.
The recipe to grow big and thrive. And the recipe to lead the world. Every recipe is about making what you want from what you have.
So, I have the recipe to be whatever I want.
Exactly. You have the recipe. What will you make?
Nestle. Good food, good life.
Thank you for the rejections that taught me to keep striving. Thank you for the long hours that taught me discipline. Thank you for the knockdowns that taught me to bounce back. And for the unexpected victories that taught me to never give up. Thank you for making me who I am.
Showing up in style inspires great confidence. IVM G5T appeals to class.
Time is of the essence. With IVM Kappa, business and meetings are always on the go.
Fun time with the family. Thank you to IVM Kingdom. IVM Kyari is always stealing the show. Isn't she beautiful? Influence defines a great leader. IVM Seriki is Africa's commute king. Strong, reliable, and durable. With the concept of regionalization, Innocent Vehicle is committed to satisfying its customers with producing their everyday dream cars.
IVM, pride of African roots.
You're watching TVC Breakfast, and we've been discussing what the newspapers are reporting this morning. I'll be speaking with Sheson Okwade and Chris Kende Mwando. Chris, pick it up from where we left.
Yes, as I was saying, it's quite unfortunate that that one of the most decorated policemen in Nigeria is finding himself in a situation where he's now being hunted. He has been in the art of hunting down criminals, but now he's been hunted, and it's quite unfortunate. Back to the question you asked, whether the National Assembly should do the needful by, I think we shouldn't jump the gun. Let's see, as far as Abba Kyari is still today, he has not been found guilty, and that's in the eyes of the law. So until he's found guilty, then you cannot either retire him or take other necessary action. But I still believe that part of what the problem we have is that we should start building institutions, not individuals. And that has always been the problem we have.
All right.
Yeah. So I think we should just wait and see how it goes. But what I'm saying in essence is that let the Federal Ministry of Justice and NDLA be able to sit down and be able to harmonize it in the interest of Nigeria.
Now,
our
ASUU,
image.
Chesson, ASUU kicks as federal government reconstitutes team to renegotiate 2009 agreement, says we won't participate in any renegotiation with the federal government.
This is ASUU issue and federal government is quite interesting, and I think I will take it a clue from what CK just said. Part of the problem we are faced with across all our segments is because we don't have institution. We build things around individual. You and I understand the challenges we've been facing since 1999 as per ASUU. Practically like a comic a friend shared with me, said somebody asked him what is ASUU strike, and he said it's an annual ritual where our students are asked to stay at home and enjoy the largesse of their parents. You know, it's quite funny and interesting because we see this comes up practically every year where the ASUU will need to go on strike, parents appealing and putting pressure on them, and you hear the lecturers saying that the government has never fulfilled some of the things that they actually promised or signed with them. So I think if we have an institution that actually functions, you would have put the arrangement in place, key into some of those things, and with whether you have an individual who is willing or not willing to, the institution will drive you in line with some of the things you have actually signed. But situation where we always use this condition where you say let them go on strike, when the people put pressure, the parents too will come from the other side and say, ASUU, your own is too much. But I think on this note, people are actually saying government has not, meet up to expectation in what they are supposed to do. So reconstituting another set of this thing, for me, I consider it as a waste in the sense that we paid certain things. They don't sit for free, whether on the part of the federal government or the ASUU themselves. There will be sitting allowance and some certain things. What happened to the old negotiation that were carried out that both parties duly endorsed and signed? So I think what we should be talking about is some of the gap that we have observed in some of those things. How are you going to actually work on them, cover them up and move on, not coming to renegotiate what you've negotiated and both parties have signed? I think that's just the area I think federal government should look into.
Well, Mr. Chris Ngige said that 200 billion naira paid to ASUU was taken from TET fund and given to them, with which amounts to taking money from the basket, the same basket, and returning it there. And this was done by the Jonathan administration, so he said. So should we cut this government some slack as a result of this?
I watched that interview last night on the national television live when he was talking. Government is a continuum. So irrespective of whoever is there, if you sign an agreement with a group, government is government. So whether the government is whatever. What he was saying to me was not tenable, because an agreement is an agreement. In law, that's what is called valid contract. A valid contract is a contract that is signed, sealed, and delivered. And once that is done, everybody is bound by tenets of that contract. And you must have to, if you have issues here, don't forget that just a few months ago, they also tried to make this renegotiation and negotiation, and they came to an agreement with federal government. And that agreement, after ASUU had gone on strike for over 11 months or thereabout, that the schools practically lost one session, both the federal university and the state universities, and there it was agreed that this is the way to go. Now, the minister was telling us how with dwindling economic fortune of Nigeria, how our revenue and rest of them, they've always go back and tell you that oil was selling for $100 and now oil is selling for over $101. I'm sure you are aware of that. Nobody is talking about that. The one they remember is that, no, when it was selling at $30 and $25, oil currently, because of the war going on between Ukraine and Russia, is over $100. Nobody is going to talk about that. So I believe that if wherever you get the money, you are the one that signed the agreement. Whenever they go, as a government, before you sign an agreement with a group, you know where you're going to take, get the funds. So whatever you're going to do to be able to do that, and let us not make this mistake that people always make, that it is ASUU about ASUU. It's not about ASUU alone, because what ASUU is talking about is not only about its welfare, but also the universities, the infrastructure. Every Nigerian want their children to travel abroad, to go to school abroad. Yesterday, a motion was raised in the House of Representatives by one of the members that children of public officers must be made to remain in Nigeria once they become public officers, to go to university in Nigeria. But the House of Representatives killed that. They say no, it's an infringement of the fundamental rights of Nigeria, their own fundamental rights. But what I'm saying in essence is let the federal government live up to expectation. And when two elephants fight, it's always the grass that suffers. And which is the grass?
The grass, the students. They're actually saying that.
What are we talking about?
Well, let's take this. We're bringing this home now. As a chartered accountant, I'm bringing this to you. An investigation reveals that Nigeria is to pay off $3.5 billion debt to China, until 2047. That's according to the blueprint. And I said $1.5 billion paid loans to outlive 6 administrations. That's about 24 years' time.
Yeah, the challenge we have about debt management in this country gives so much worries. And we've been hearing NBC, Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, NBS, coming out to say that our debt to GDP ratio is still below the benchmark stated by the World Bank. But the fact remains that some of the debts that we are accruing, what are we using them for? If you are getting some of this thing for infrastructure that will, pay itself, that's what majorly. Debt is not an issue, like we keep saying in financial terms. But what areas where some of these things are channeled to is actually the problem. And with this that we are reading, that till the next 6 administration, paying up debt that we have is to tell you that we are mortgaging the future of the young ones that we call the leaders of tomorrow. You ask yourself the question, if the former people have actually done this, what will this administration be enjoying?
But so that the government said that we are investing in 17 capital projects. So is it good that we see the project, excuse me, that we see the project and then, where we have the project, even though we're paying debts, that's justifiable?
No, if we have the project, you must be able to do feasibility report on it to make sure that it's able to repay itself. And, with the interest that is accruable to it. But the part of the problem we've been having, just like CKN said with ASUU issue, is that most of the time we go into this thing without thinking through. And when we get to the middle of the ocean, we get stalled, and it becomes a problem that we'll find difficult to repay back even the principal or the interest rate. And these start accumulating and accumulating. But I just feel that the government should have a transparency way, put up a system that some of this loan that we are getting today can on its own repay itself and relieve the citizen of the burden, so that in the nearest future we can have something to show forth for some of the loans that we are collecting today. All
right, your final thoughts on this quickly.
Well, this government has become a government of pushing everything to the next government. Don't forget that issue of oil subsidy, the PIB and the rest of them, they practically removed their hand and said, okay, the next government will say, now we are picking up debt. I remember that the government of Olusegun Obasanjo, before he left, paid off all Nigerian debts. I'm sure everybody still remember that. Now we have accumulated so much, and the government is just collecting and not giving any parameter on how it's going to pay back. Now you are pushing it down 25 years further. What are you trying to do? You are practically strangulating any other government that's coming. That's the way to go. There should be what we used to have development plans across board. In those days, every government used to have a development plan. It used to be 5 years, always 5 years. Which development plan has this particular government put in place? It's about 7 years, and they just have 1 year to go. It is quite unfortunate that this is where we go to. But as I always say, I always want to believe that I want to be an optimist that we'll get it right.
Yeah, but don't be like politicians who are incurable optimists.
I am not. I will never be, because when a politician tells you good morning, just go to make sure that check the weather and make sure that it's not night.
Anyway, I'm not a politician, but I will say good morning to you guys and thanks for coming. Chartered accountant, public affairs analyst Sheson Kwade, and also chartered mediator, conciliator Chris Kende Wandu.
Thank you very much.